And nobody wants me to talk about your other senator, who's weak on borders, weak on crime. So I won't talk about him. Nobody wants me to talk about him. Nobody knows who the hell he is.
Well, we kind of want to talk about him. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
He's here.
Why not then? That was President Trump talking about Republican Senator Jeff Flake at a campaign-style rally in Phoenix at the end of August on his home turf.
Wow.
Senator Flake joins us now. Last time he was on the show, he was here to discuss his new book, Conscience of a Conservative, a rejection of destructive politics and a return to principle.
And you've got a reader, a loyal, faithful 15-year-old reader.
Little girl of mine reading your book in Louisville, Kentucky, and she's fascinated by it.
Well, I'm glad
she's a big supporter.
Well, I appreciate that.
All right.
Let me tell you, after that Arizona rally, I kind of felt like, is it Voldemort on the Harry Potter thing?
Yes.
He who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named.
You've become one of those.
So how is your relationship with the president right now?
It's frankly, whether it's a Democratic president, Republican president, I support them when I believe they're right. I worked with President Obama on Cuba policy, for example. I opposed him on most things. President Bush, I agreed with him on most things, but I opposed No Child Left Behind, the prescription drug benefit, and so I worked for the people of Arizona.
Yeah, and
7 million people, and and I work with the president on what I can work with him on, and I'll oppose him on things that I think he's wrong on, like NAFTA, for example.
So some poll numbers have come out, and it suggests that you're 842% behind in primary. Like primaries next year, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Are you facing that sort of rejection from people in the Republican Party?
You know, off-year polls are always, you know, incumbents are always down. It's not that the polls are inaccurate. They're probably accurate. You do 10 of them, you'll get the same thing. It's just that they're not very relevant right now. When you run a campaign like McCain, you know, 2 years ago had similar poll numbers. He was going to lose by double digits to a primary opponent and double digits to a generic general opponent. But in the end, you run a campaign and it comes out differently.
Now, Lisa Murkowski lost the primary, ended up running as an independent and won. Would you consider doing that?
You know, I am a Republican. I've been a lifelong Republican. Right. And I think I'll stay where I am.
Okay. Lots of luck with that. We're going to talk about the Republican health care bill now. It seems like this is the last thing you would support, not because of what's actually in the bill, but the process is radical. No CBO scoring, no regular order. Once again, a couple people scribbling down a bill and shoving it in your face and saying, if you're a good Republican, if you're a member of the tribe, you're going to vote for this.
Well, let me dispel one notion. I've heard people say that we're simply responding to donors out there. Some people may be hearing from donors. I can tell you who I'm hearing from. When I go home every weekend, one thing I do is go to the gym every morning. I'll get on a treadmill or on a stationary bike, and inevitably somebody will get on right beside me because I'm trapped there.
And what they'll say is, we love this morning show. Isn't this a great show? But after they tell you that, what do they say,
well,
Senator?
If it's 6 a.m., you guys are already off the air. So that's the problem with that. Yeah. But what they tell me is, I had insurance. I lost it. There are 183,000 Arizonans who are paying the fine to the federal government because they can't afford care. Many of them, if not most of them, had insurance before the Affordable Care Act came along. 80% of them are making less than $50,000 a year. And equal
does this bill
number,
fix that? And if you say it does fix that, how do you know it really fixes it? Because it's being rushed to a vote.
One thing it does fix is it relieves that fine that they're paying. So these people are paying a fine. It's a total of about $39 million from those 183,000 people, and they still don't have any insurance after paying the fine. They'll no longer have to pay that fine. That's what the so-called skinny repeal would have done as well. This doesn't fix everything with Obamacare. It can't. We're going to have to do that with a bipartisan bill. This is the first step. And I can tell you, there are people in Arizona and elsewhere who need relief. There are 15 counties in Arizona. In every county, those who are buying on the exchange are paying more for their health care premium monthly than they are for their mortgage. If you're a typical family of 4, you're paying more for your health care premium than your mortgage. And most of those who have those policies can't afford to use them because deductibles and copays are so high that they have to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 out of pocket before the first insurance dollar kicks in.
But to Joe's point, have you read the current bill that you're about to vote on?
Oh, I've read a lot of it. We're all looking at it.
How long is it?
Well, I don't know the current number of pages. No. There are provisions in there. I've heard it said that it'll be a race to the bottom and that the states can ultimately deny coverage or allow insurance companies to deny on pre-existing condition. If they're able to, de jure, de facto, they won't be able to. Joe understands well. In 1986, with welfare reform, it was said, all right, you turn this over to the states, it's going to be a race to the bottom. People will be lying on grates, dying in the streets. It wasn't the case because they respond to political pressure as well.
Senator, does the bill address the issue that you just raised?
It does. But ultimately, in the end, I think it does allow them to apply for a waiver to do that. But in reality, is any governor, is any state legislature going to deny coverage based on pre-existing conditions?
Yes, they are.
No, I don't believe they will.
Yes, they will.
In the past, maybe, but not anymore. And so I just don't believe that's the case. They have to respond to political pressure just like us. You could say right now that this is not a constitutional guarantee for pre-existing condition coverage. Therefore, Congress could, at a whim, at any moment, deny that coverage. That could be said now, but Congress is not going to.
You've just said accurately that some Arizonans are worse off under the Affordable Care Act than they were before.
And some are better off.
And some are better off. Who will be worse off in Arizona if your bill passes and becomes law? Anyone?
I can tell you, you never have a bill.
Be honest with your constituents. Yeah. Some of them will be worse off, right?
That's right.
So who are those people? Describe what those people are like.
Well, what we have right now, 1/3 of Arizonans are covered by our version of Medicaid.
Right. And some of those people will be worse off at this
theoretically,
bill.
We don't know.
Well, how could they not be?
Well, we have a governor who's looked at this bill and said, I like it. We have a governor who's saying, please pass it, because we have more flexibility.
But answer my question.
But that governor may not have somebody at home who has terrible disabilities who can only stay at home because of what Medicaid provides, and there are going to be some cuts there.
Well, one thing we have now is a situation where, with Medicaid, we're running this program at medical inflation plus 1 or 2%. That is the very definition of unsustainability. You can't do that forever. You have to have changes to it.
So why don't you have a bipartisan
some of the
bill?
changes,
That's what I don't understand. This is like and I know you.
I would love to have a bipartisan bill.
I know you agree with me because I have seen you through the years. You don't like when people get in a back room and scribble down bills and throw it out there. Shouldn't they have done this through regular? Isn't John McCain right? This should be done through regular order with a CBO score. And why can't Republicans in the Senate do that?
Well, one thing, we have a crisis coming now. Like I said, we have 200,000 Arizonans who can't afford coverage and they're paying the fine. Right. Second, in January of this year.
But you could have said that back in January. Why can't you start now and have regular order and get it right over the next 6 months? That's what a conservative he has.
And
do you agree with him?
He told it. Yes, I do. And I agree with him when he told us just the other day that there is no imminent solution here. They're not getting support from the Democrats. We'd love to have it. I can tell you. We'd love to have it. And we're going to ultimately have to have it.
Right.
In January, the fines that will be imposed against employers, the employees are already being fined when they don't have insurance. I mentioned 200,000 Arizonans. But the employers have gotten off the hook so far. Starting January, the bills will go out from the IRS. 90,000 businesses will be receiving a bill totaling about $5 billion. That's going to hit hard, and that's going to hurt business.
Jonathan,
Joe mentioned Senator McCain. He cast the deciding vote to defeat the last health care proposal. Have you spoken to him about this? Are you lobbying him? Are you trying to sway him on the vote?
We're speaking on it. Obviously, we're concerned about what our governor says and what our state legislature says. But he has his own franchise, obviously, and I tell you, I admire the heck out of him.
Yes, he does. Franchise. And it's a big one.
And yeah, it is. And he has spoke eloquently. I can tell you every day. in our lunches or wherever we're meeting together, he's talking about getting back to regular order, and he sees it in the Armed Services Committee. He's the chairman. He works that process well. I admire him for it, but I can tell you, we have got to do something here because Arizonans are hurting now.
All right, Senator Jeff Flake, thank you very much.
Senator, you brought a
Great to have
guest. You brought a guest.
Yeah.
Your wife's here.
She is.
Cheryl, is it Cheryl?
It's
She's
Cheryl.
on book tour.
How did he do, Cheryl?
He did great.
Did he really? Okay.
Perfect. All right. Ahead, we're going to talk to another Republican senator supporting the Obamacare repeal bill, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. More Morning Joe in just a moment.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.